Let's get to our political panel right now. Joining us, our senior political analyst, Gloria Borger, the former Bush White House speechwriter, David Frum, and our senior political correspondent, Candy Crowley. I want to talk about our top story, obviously, an historic address today by the President of the United States in Cairo. First of all, David, let me just pick your brain for a moment. You helped create that famous phrase, the axis of evil, used by the former President George W. Bush. What did you think, in a nutshell, of this speech today?
I feared in advance that the speech would be a terrible mistake, but it was worse than my worst fears.
Why?
What the president did was he set in motion a dynamic where he legitimated the most angry, the most alienated members of the Islamic world as the most legitimate. I mean, Salman Rushdie is a member of the Muslim world. The speech wasn't for him. Those terrorized young gays in Iran are part of the Muslim world. The speech wasn't for them. The speech was addressed to the people who are angriest. So you legitimate them as the most authentic. One example of this, the president took a slap at the government of France when he condemned those Western governments that banned the hijab. There's only one Western government.
Which is the veil.
Which is the head government. Only one Western government does that, France, and then only in state schools. They do that in order to protect girls from violence from these vigilante youth gangs that patrol some of the French suburbs. Now, aren't those girls who are terrorized, aren't they part of the Muslim world? Don't they get a
The president made the point, Gloria, that in the United States, the government went to the courts to make it illegal for these young girls to wear a scarf.
Right, and I think what he was trying to do, and you obviously think he did not succeed in doing it, was to divide the extremists in the Muslim world from the rest of the people in the Muslim world, and to draw that line.
Right. But so the line he draws is extremists here, everybody else here. Meanwhile, seculars, progressives, modern people, they're all lumped in exactly where they don't want to be. With this conformist idea that to be an authentic Muslim means that you have to belong to this aggrieved group.
I actually read it, as I do many of the president's speeches and as a candidate, and that is, it sometimes tends to be a Rorschach's test. I mean, you can look at it and say, well, he said this. There's a lot of on the one hand. On the other hand, it's why critics are worried about moral equivalency between the plight of the Palestinians and the plight of the Israelis. And I think the same holds true for this. I think if you are prone to believe that the president is reaching out to moderates in the Muslim world, you could go through and find several graphs. Or you can look at it the way David does and do it the other way.
He was an equal opportunity offender to everyone.
He could irritate a lot of the people out there. I'm going to play a little clip for you, specifically right now, on the suffering of the Palestinians. Listen to this.
For more than 60 years, they've endured the pain of dislocation. Many wait in refugee camps in the West Bank, Gaza, and neighboring lands for a life of peace and security that they have never been able to lead. They endure the daily humiliations, large and small, that come with occupation. So let there be no doubt, the situation for the Palestinian people is intolerable.
It didn't take very long for Rush Limbaugh to, and a lot of other conservatives and Republicans, to make this point. Listen.
What President Obama did today is unconscionable. To draw a moral equivalence between the slaughter of 6 million Jews and a political circumstance in Palestine that's largely brought on by Palestinian leaders.
David, you agree with him?
I don't think the president did do that. I don't agree with what Rush Limbaugh said. But the president did open the way to a lot of very unfortunate things. One of his methods is to make a rhetorical concession that he thinks means nothing. To a blank check that'll be cashed later. For example, one of the things he said in the speech was he criticized the United States for making it too difficult for American Muslims to give to Islamic charities. That's a criticism of America's terrorist financing laws that make it illegal to give to Hamas front groups. Is he planning on altering those regulations to make it easier or not? I think the answer is probably not. It was just a form of words, but he is going to be pressed. He often acts as if his words, once they only exist to soothe and mollify, they don't indicate
the
policy.
Criticism coming in from, we heard it from John Boehner, the Republican leader in the House, among others, from Jewish groups. There was a long segment talking about the suffering of Jews, the killing of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust, and then he used these words. On the other hand, it is also undeniable that the Palestinian people, Muslims and Christians, have suffered in pursuit of a homeland. And that's what's causing the president, at least with his critics, some heartburn.
I do not think it was moral equivalency. I believe what the president is saying is that there ought to be two sides living together, a two-state solution. And I might point out today, he actually used the word Palestine. which I haven't heard from an American president. And I think that if that's moral equivalency, well, it's the same solution the Bush administration.
Hold on one second.
Islam doesn't mean Arab, and Arab doesn't mean Palestine.
Candy, very quickly.
Well, I mean, I just think, again, that this is something, if you are on the Palestinian side, you're going to think that was moral equivalency, and there you are. And if you're on the Israeli side, you're going to think the same thing and not like it. So you've got, you know, it's on one hand, on the other hand.